it's Silly, welcome back to another video, or hello if you are new. Today, we are back in Summit Sanctuary, actually making some good progress on my buildings for once. Last episode, I completed the giant public pool area and the private bungalows, with the private pool for the bungalows as well. And today, I am working on some of the adjacent areas, like the kind of the seating and lounge areas outside of the pool. So right now what I'm building is a set of lockers because I've never been to a large amusement park or a large zoo that did not have a set of lockers, especially right near this pool. You know, people want to put their things away, they don't want them to get stolen. So I really wanted to get some lockers in here, and I forget what piece this is that I used, but it looks kind of like a rotating dial for like a lock, padlock. And so I just felt like I liked that piece, so I used it for the padlock and made a pretty big set of lockers here to house all of the guests' things. And then the other thing that I mainly work on in this episode is in an entirely different location. I start building the concert hall in this episode, I believe, or maybe I already have the sort of foundation for it, but right outside of the concert hall, I decided to build a little ice cream buffet. So I believe I have the milkshake counter and the ice cream vending machine. And so hopefully guests will go to that area and it'll look like they're having a little ice cream moment, you know. I have like all these fake little toppings that I did my best to make them look realistic. I don't know if they ended up looking all that good, but I think you get the idea, which is the important part. Like, I think I used a bunch of the rope coils to look like peanuts, and not gonna lie, the texture is okay. It definitely works. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. I think a couple other things. Like right now I am working on some details of the public picnic area that I made, and I guess maybe like 2 or 3 episodes ago now, which I mostly finished and just decided to show you guys at the time because all I really had left was this water feature to add. I think the only thing you really didn't see in the speed build part of it. So yeah, we're getting ever closer to having bountiful animals in the zoo. And I'm very much looking forward to that time because I don't want you guys to get the wrong impression. Unfortunately, this is just the way I build things, and so it's just the way that the series is gonna unfold. Like, I didn't really have a better way to present this speed build series except in chronological order, because otherwise it wouldn't really make sense and I would confuse the heck out of myself trying to organize this series. But I don't want you guys to think that there's a lack of animals in this zoo, or that it's like mostly aesthetic and just some animals. It's really just this front area that has all of these additional like aesthetic pieces that are not all that usable by the guests, you know. Through the rest of the zoo, like, I think once we hit episode 17, so 2 episodes from now, is when I show you guys the deer habitat and the lynx habitat, which I'm very excited for. And I think after that, for the most part, like, there's not too much building that isn't related directly to the animals. So there's a couple more things. There is a food court area, and then There is one section of a building that I made into like a party room to like, you know, people rent rooms to host their birthday parties and things like that. So that doesn't have anything to do with animals, but there are animals in that building that I make. There is a whole habitat that has an indoor viewing section in that building. So for the most part, I think starting in an episode or two, you are going to see animals every single episode, at least, or animal viewing habitat, viewing areas being made. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. In case you're wondering what I'm doing right now, which I actually end up deleting a lot of this stuff to the side, which is why it's not in the speed build after all, because I got rid of it. But what I'm trying to do right now is build a little aquarium. And I do, for the most part, keep this. I was struggling to figure out how I wanted this to look, because I want it to look somewhat realistic, but obviously there's no fish in the game, and it's difficult to make scenery that looks realistic when you're trying to do it for an aquarium. What I intend to do, and I believe I've talked about this before, is I'm gonna try to put some of the TV screens like behind these open circular areas and try to simulate an aquarium that way. I don't know if it's gonna work. I haven't really tested it yet. I do have some stock footage I found on Adobe of swimming fish, so hopefully if all goes well, it will look pretty realistic as far as fish swimming by the open glass areas. So that's the plan going there. And here is the concert hall, which I start building, as I mentioned earlier. So it's a pretty large concert hall, and I don't know what's wrong with me, but I keep wanting to do circular buildings. Like, a lot of the buildings in this zoo in particular are circular and shaped, which is like great, but also a pain in the butt to do roofing because you just have a lot of overlapping pieces. And I can tell, like, I'm getting a little bit worried about my zoo and the functionality of it in terms of like how many pieces there is and the lag that you will experience. I so far mostly just have some pretty bad lag spikes initially when I open the zoo, but then it seems to go away. And especially I don't have any when I'm like close up in an area just looking around. So I am very close to done. I've almost finished the zoo, and I really, really just need my game to hold out until the zoo is completed, and then not lag on me. I don't want it to lag, please. I worked too hard on this zoo to have so many lag issues. Though there is something I can do pretty immediately, which is get rid of all the animals that are in my zoo. By all, I mean all the extra ones, because I love having baby animals. So I do tend to put males and females in habitat together so that they can breed and eventually little babies roaming around. And also, you know, being that this zoo is supposedly focused on conservation, breeding endangered animals is a huge part of conservation efforts. So it makes sense that they would have, you know, a lot of babies to take care of in the zoo, but it's getting a little overwhelming. There's like 28 capybaras in my capybara habitat right now, and I think a majority of them are juvenile and or were born in captivity. I know a lot of them have grown up. I keep getting notifications about infighting. I guess I didn't turn the infighting off. I thought I had, but I did not, and it's probably so that I could track when there was too many animals in the habitat in terms of family growth, because yeah, it's a little intense at the moment. So I do need to do that, and I think that would help my lagging in general quite a bit. So hopefully that works, but otherwise I think at the very least I will be able to film a very decent tour of this video. I just don't know how well the zoo is going to function for everybody else if you try to put it in your game. It's unclear to me at the moment. Probably though, if you want to use the zoo at all in your game, you are going to need a fairly hefty computer because there's a lot of pieces in this zoo. If you haven't gauged that from the amount of work I put into non-usable, non-functionable items and or decor. Anyway, this is the ice cream habitat. Oh my god, what am I saying? This is the ice cream buffet. I mean, I guess the whole thing is sort of a habitat for people if you think about it in a certain way, but yeah, this is ice cream. So as I mentioned, ice cream vending machine, and I think that's the milkshake counter. I can't remember actually. It's possible it's like the energy drink or something else. It's gulpy something, so it must be one of the sodas or energies, because Cosmic Cow is the milkshake brand, but that's okay. Whatever, you know, it'll still function sort of as intended, which is guests go over there. I'm not entirely sure though how the guests are gonna do with this concert hall, to be honest, because the guest AI is pretty finicky when it comes to having guests route to places where there aren't animals directly in the path, so I am minorly worried that even though there are exhibits in this concert hall that the guests will not enter still. I may put a vista point somewhere if I can make it look not stupid. Because it's really... And also they don't take pictures the way I thought they were going to. I originally put a vista point in like a flower pot in my hotel, thinking that they would take a picture of the vista point, but I think they like really stand on the vista point and take photos, and it just... they were standing in the flower pot, the guests, when I had it there, so I did remove that one. But I'm gonna try to make some of them work elsewhere to see if I can get the guests to go in some of these areas that they normally wouldn't route to just because they don't have any reason to. Even though, realistically, you would have a reason to, so... yeah, that's where we're at with, that situation. So I guess it's a waiting game to see if the guests react the way I want them to for some of these later parts of the zoo. I can't recall if I've tested the zoo at this point or not, because there was a point in time where I had to fix the spawn points. I've talked all about it in a previous episode, but I don't remember what period of time that was, or like how far into the build I was at that point, so I'm not sure if I ever tested the guests here or not. Huh. You know, I must have, because I don't finish the deer habitat until later, and I know that one of the things that I was worried about the guests interacting properly with was the exhibits, the interactable oh my goodness, words. The interactable animals in the habitats. That's what I was trying to say. So, by the rules of the game, the guests need a guest habitat gate, a guest gate in the habitat to be able to have that habitat qualify as an interactive walkthrough habitat. Otherwise, they can walk through it, but they won't interact like with all the new petting zoo animations and things that the guests have from Barnyard. So I think it was a free update actually, but it sort of came with Barnyard in the intention that it's a petting zoo DLC. So yeah, I did test that, and it works as well as I expected it to, which is sometimes there's some weird routing issues with which hand sanitizer station they go to, but for the most part it works fine, and the guests don't really seem to have too many issues with it. Hopefully that rings true as well for the lemur habitat that I built, because the guest gate isn't even connected to any pathway, but it did register in the game as being a usable habitat, so I don't think there's going to be too many issues, except guests maybe trying to walk out of the gate and then realizing that there's no exit that way. As I said, everything is a little bit of a waiting to see how the guests actually interact, where the flow of traffic is, and all these things. And right now I am working on all of the little toppings for ice cream. And there's not a lot of tiny pieces in the game, so it was certainly a little bit of a challenge just to try to get something that looks realistic. Like, these are supposed to be sprinkles. They're huge. It doesn't look like a sprinkle at all, but I think you guys get the idea. But with that, we're at the end of the video, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a like. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me, or follow this playlist for all of the future speed builds in this series. Join my Discord if you want to chat about Planet Zoo or any of the other games that I make content on. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye!